This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome aboard the afternoon sunset safari. We're coming to you live from the Djuma Traverse of the Greater Kruger National Park in South Africa. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera this afternoon I've got Craig. How's it, Craig? Now, please don't forget to join us on the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. Send us your questions and your comments and get involved in this interactive game drive. Now, we're still in the grips of quite a large cold front. As you can see, these clouds are really moving through, almost giving us the feeling like it might even snow. It's really chilly. We've all got our jackets on, and well, this giraffe also being a little bit nervous because there's quite a lot of wind around as well, and so the animals do seem to be a little bit more on edge when we've got that kind of weather around. But he's just moving through there, a nice big bull giraffe. Now, out on the vehicles with me, I've got Sydney. He'll also be out this afternoon. And I believe James is out on foot with the bushwalk part of things. So I'm sure between the three of us, we can come up with all sorts of little things that we can show you. Well, at least we've been able to see the tallest land mammal to start with. I'm not sure if we're going to get too much more of a view of him. He is being a little bit nervous, as I said, and moving through the thickets there, not really giving us too much of a chance to get a good view on him. Look there, it's a little bit obscure, but with that very stormy looking background to him. So, well, I'm always going to be looking out for cats, and I think this afternoon I might head a little bit west after I initially go east. So I'm going to head east and just pass by where Thandi and Kuchava were yesterday and a little bit before that. Now I might pop in at Chitwa, and then I'm going to make my way towards sunset all the way over to the west. I'm going to see if I can get any sign of Hukumuri and maybe even Shudulu. Now, that's the pole that we do have our rain cover on. So that's that black bar that you've just seen go past the screen there, because there is every chance that there might be a little bit of rain coming through at any stage, because, as I say, it's rather stormy. So we are expecting to have a little bit of unexpected weather, and so expect the unexpected. Anyway, I'm going to start up and see, maybe I can get a bit closer to this guy. If I can't, I'm going to keep going. But I think today is for the cats. But, well, let's head you on over to Sydney and see what his plan is for the RV.
Yeah, a very, very good afternoon. The weather is still very cloudy, overcast. It seems like we're going to receive some little bit of rain again this afternoon. But the only big difference between this morning and this afternoon is the wind. The wind is too much at this stage, but hopefully this is not going to disturb the animal activities. My plan for this afternoon is to look for the cats. I am Sydney, and I am not alone this afternoon. I am traveling with Jandre. Jandre is my photographer. We are both going to be with you on this safari this afternoon, and hopefully you are going to enjoy. So you can see here that the area seems to be very quiet. So what I'm going to do now is that I am going to drive all the way down to this area and try to cover the area I haven't been this morning. Maybe in this area we might be lucky and come across the cats. Yeah, let's now head to James. James has got something interesting, maybe already on his side. While I'm starting on my side, James, he can take us through what he got on the other side.
Now this hobby. Well, I'm sorry, everyone. I don't know what happened there. There was a little problem. There's maybe the gremlins are attacking because of the weather. But I was just on the radio there chatting with the Game Scout Herbie, seeing exactly where they're going. And I will then assist with them as well. We'll all work together as we normally do with trying to find out where the cats are. So we're going to be heading in the direction of Nyala Road north and south. That's a little bit to the eastern central or central eastern part of the Djuma Traverse, and then I'm just going to be checking the eastern side. That's normally where Thandi, the Queen of Djuma, normally moves around along with Tlalamba, and they have been spotted there just recently. So I'm going to be checking out and see if we can get any signs there. Now this morning it seemed like Tingana had moved on his usual route of heading back over onto Little Gowrie from Twin Dams. I saw that he headed a little bit north, sorry, not north, south from there towards where the elephant carcass is, and then I think he crossed out. Possibly he'll be back quite soon, but I think that this morning he had walked out. So we'll try and sort things out there, and hopefully this afternoon we're going to get lucky. Now it seems like somebody else has gotten lucky and sorted his audio out.
Hello everybody, hope you're all well. I'm on bushwalk today. You can see I'm not in a car today. Sebastian is on camera. I seem to have, unfortunately for Sebastian, saddled myself firmly to him over the last, I don't know, feels like about a decade now. Please talk to us using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, otherwise the chat stream on YouTube. Our plan today is to head towards the great H. Khoza. There he is. And then beyond the great H. Khoza, with the great H. Khoza in front of us, of course, towards where we think Thandi may have gone. Now, I am going to describe the weather, not as a cold front, but as a miserable front. It is a miserable front. The weather is not supposed to be like this in winter here. It's supposed to be clear, bright and beautiful all the time. And it has not been so of late. The only other thing I have to tell you before we get on to the serious business of a walking safari is that I have this, would we say, property or characteristic? I have this unfortunate characteristic that draws my feet towards the dung, the scat, the waste products of animals. And if such things are on the ground, I will inevitably stand on them. So it was that before I came on drive, I stood on something outside my room, I think placed there by the bottom of a baboon or a monkey, and I then walked, unknowledged, into the final control room, whereupon I spread it over the carpet. I am therefore not, I am persona non grata in the final control room right now. They are basically doing small pieces of work before rushing outside to gasp for air, and then rushing back in, doing one or two more things, coming back out again. So that is all I have to tell you. Now we can head on with the main part of our safari. I just had to confess that. Ah, good news. Sydney has found something. We will continue to try and do the same.
Yeah, this is how a natural waterhole develops. If you can just check here very nicely, you will see that the animals has been here. And it's not the same kind of animals which has been here. Normally, this kind of waterholes are developed from the pothole. We get the animals such as the warthogs. The warthogs will then come here and do the mud wallowing after drinking. And after the warthogs, you are going to get the big animals such as the rhinos, who will then come and do the mud wallowing in order to use the mud as a cream to prevent the sunburn. After the rhinos, you are going to have the elephants, who will then come and broaden that area in order to use the mud as a sunburn as well. So these different species, they are coming here in order to use the mud, not aware that what they are doing is going to create them a water hole. Sometimes you find that the elephant themselves, they dig these holes. If not, it's not a pothole, they come and dig, and as they are digging, they are broadening the area, and when the water comes during the rainy season, it's going to be a big dam. Suddenly, this is going to become a big water hole. So now I am still going to look for the leopards, as I have indicated. But while I'm looking for this leopard, I am still going to show you other interesting things on the ground. So we are going to head towards the eastern direction of the Djuma Game Reserve. We have been there this morning, and we did pick up a lot of evidence, such as the leopard tracks. So the possibilities of sightings are very high this afternoon. So without any waste of time, I am going to investigate further and see if I can find you something interesting. So I'm just trying to see if I can pick up the first track of the day. So on the ground here, it is very, very quiet. I normally use the ground as a map in order to see what has been in the area. So, but this map seems to be very quiet this afternoon. All I'm seeing is the vehicle tracks, our vehicle tracks for this morning. But as soon as I pick up something, I'm going to investigate it. Yeah, I am now going to hand over to Ralph. Ralph is also busy trying to get hold of something on the other side. Ralph is going to take us through now.
Right, everyone, this is where Thandi and Tlalamba do like hanging around. This is Nyala Road North. And, well, speaking of Nyala, there's a nice little female Nyala just looking at, oh, there's a few of them there. So as the name suggests, this little road, there's an impala in amongst them as well. I'm going to stop now and we'll just have a quick little peek at them. Why not? And we'll just be quiet here a little bit, just so that we can listen out and see if there's anybody that's picked up some sign of these leopards in the area. And while we're here, you see how this male, he's just joined in with this little group of Nyala. An aggregation. There's not too many of them, but when you have different species like that, we do call it an aggregation. Obviously, safety in numbers, more eyes, more ears, and everybody just being able to look out for each other. And they do have quite similar habits to impala and Nyala. You can quite often find them moving, especially male impala. You can find them just shifting around where the Nyala are as well. And another association that you often find is impala and baboons. And that's a good association as well, a bit of a symbiotic, mutualistic, beneficial relationship, because they both are assisting in looking out for each other. Nobody's feeding on there. It's quite dry, all this grass. Can't be too much nutritional value in it. And he's feeding through nonetheless. Taking little bites off of those sprouts of grass there, right down at the base. Must be getting something there. Yeah, there's a little bit of greenness in amongst the brown. See, there's definitely picking out. A little bit more selective would an impala be in comparison to a zebra, for example. Now, Camora, generally antelope species are friendly with each other. However, I've seen, bushbuck being quite aggressive between Nyala and bushbuck. And Craig, you must just tell me if you want me to shift for this pole. These guys might move and get us a better picture there. But Nyala and bushbuck can actually be quite aggressive towards each other, and often you find where Nyala do well, bushbuck don't do so well, and the converse as well. So where there's a lot of bushbuck, not very often will you find lots of a Nyala. And there's another sort of time when I've seen gemsbok also very aggressive sometimes towards the other antelope as well. But generally they would move together and with the common purpose of just avoiding predators. So there you can see, and with those stripes on them really assisting in just breaking up the outline of the body and assisting in the camouflage. And look at that, it's almost just disappeared there into the thicket. So, Nyala Road North, very aptly named for that, for the animals that we do find here. So, I'm still really hoping. I saw a lot of hyena tracks here on top of the splattering of rain that we had this morning. So I'm hoping maybe we'll spot a hyena. We've also got elephant tracks on the road here, but I'm still waiting for tracks and signs of some leopard, and of course I'm not the only one.
We are also not waiting for tracks and signs of leopard, because time waits for no man. Fortune favours those who seek out for themselves. Fortune favours the brave. And breaking trees do not favour anybody except those who are very light indeed. This could end very badly. I have a bad feeling about this. All right, here I am. Okay, good. Now, where we have come is up to a junction of the great Mati drainage system, which is just in front of me here, and the central road of Djuma. And it is around here that we would expect to start picking up tracks of Tandi or Tlalalamba. And that's what we're hoping to do. Let's have a little listen. Very silent afternoon. I can just hear a black-headed oriole over there going... But otherwise everything is quiet. There are no alarm calling antelope. No telltale go-away birds telling things to go away. Very quiet indeed. I find that the less sun there is, the more quiet it happens to be. Right, now before I fall off here, I think we're going to go across to Sydney, who once again has got something actually with a heartbeat to tell you about.
Yes, I've got some kudus here. It's a very big family, so they are very stationary feeding. The difference between the male and female kudus is very easy. The males carry horns, and the females don't carry horns. And the males, they've got hairs here on the throat. The females, they don't have hairs on the throat. But if you can look at their body now, you can see that the hairs are very fluffy. That is a sign that this afternoon it is still a little bit cold. When it's very sunny, you will see the hairs very flat. So the kudus, they've got a line behind the neck, and that line, if it's flat, it means they are lacking of calcium. They've got to go around the field and look for the bones of the other old dead animals and chew them in order to get calcium, which is something called an osteophagic behavior. Osteophagic behavior is a behavior which has got something to do with the bones. So if you look on the side of their bodies, these kudus, they've got some stripes. And those stripes, the females and the males, they've got them. But when those stripes are fainted, it can also show that the calcium level is not very good. So the kudus are browsers. They eat leaves. Sometimes, yes, you see them eating some of the small trees on the ground, and as if they are eating grass. So I can see that the sighting, it is disappearing. I want to pull forward a little bit and see if we can have a better visual. My favorite antelope, it is the kudu. What I'm seeing now is my best antelope. So the kudus, if you can check nicely, Anli, when running away from danger, they always raise up their tails and show off a very bright fluffy hairs underneath the tail. So that serves as a follow me sign, but also it helps them because the predators mostly get attracted by what is bright and they mark it. As soon as the kudu goes to the bushes, they lower the tail and then match the surrounding. That is one of the strategies the kudus are using to outrun their predators. So I'm just going to try and pull forward and see if I can have a better visual from the corner right in front there. Yeah, let's see if we can have a better sighting from this angle here. Now it is quite a big family. Eh? Look, they are all raising their ears. So both male and female kudus, they've got large ears, and the large ears helps them to collect a lot of sound from a distance because these animals are browsers, and for them to get a lot of food, they must have to concentrate deep in the thick bushes. Oh, we got a better sighting again. They look a little bit confused. Eh? You can see only one of them is feeding. We can see some of the birds has just arrived now. Those are the oxpeckers. So the responsibilities of the oxpeckers is cleaning the animals, and it helps us a lot because when we are seeing the oxpeckers circling up in the air, going to check there, we know something is happening. So they are very good indicators of big animals. You can see this one is very much curious, eh? There's even some of the calls given by some of the birds here on my right hand side. Maybe something is happening here where we are now because I can hear the francolins as well. They are complaining a little bit, but considering the kudus, they are feeding, but some of them, they are inquisitive. Maybe something is happening in the area. Let me just move forward and see if we can see the reason why the francolins are complaining on my right hand side. So we are not very far away from the dam, and normally by the dams is whereby these predators, they go. So Ralph, he got something already on the other side. Without any waste of time, I am going to hand over to Ralph so that he can take us through.
Well, everyone, we're just trying to get the angles right because of the roof. It's not always that easy. But I've just spotted that we've come towards Biffel's Hook waterhole, and I just spotted one of these menacing characters up in the tree here. So, you know, it can just be coincidence. You know, vultures do need to rest, and especially on a cold day like this where there's no real thermals for them to easily get some height or altitude, you very often find them down sort of roosting like this on a tree. But obviously where there's vultures, there can sometimes be food or meat around, and with that comes predators. So it's always a good idea just to stop if you see vultures and have a look around. But like I say, on a day like this, very common for the vultures to be resting up. Now this is a white-backed vulture. You can see there very clearly also no feathers on the head and neck area. And then sometimes if he extends his neck a little bit, which he probably won't do because it's quite cold now, you can actually see those bare patches on his chest because that assists him with his thermaling. You can feel the hot patches. And if you've ever done any paragliding, there's a little apparatus. I don't know what it's called. You can always send it into the hashtag SafariLive Twitter handle. If you know what this little apparatus is called, that when you go paragliding, and I've done it many, many, many times, especially in the Alps, but I've always gone tandem with different flyers, and This little apparatus is actually used when you gain in altitude. It goes beep, 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 beep. So when you're going up and down, the quicker the little beeps are together, the higher or the faster you're gaining in altitude. And as you slow down, it goes slower. So the whole time as you're turning with the paraglide and with the wing above you, the pilot the entire time is trying to get himself onto the. Obviously, when it's going beep, 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 that's what you're looking for. When it slows down, he's obviously dropping off that thermal. So he wants to keep turning around and hitting those beep, 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 and you want to be keeping it on that section because then you're gaining in height. And obviously, the more you gain in height, the longer you can fly. And so the record that we had was 2.5 hours, and we flew nearly 100 kilometers, and it was absolutely incredible. And something else is that, I don't think it's been broken still, but the world record for the furthest distance travelled with the paraglide is held in South Africa by a South African, and it's been through the Northern Cape. And I think that this guy, he went over something between 600 and 800 kilometres on one flight, which is totally incredible. I can't remember the exact details, but I know that it's there, and that's something to look into as well. Now, all those paragliders, they do try and emulate vultures and eagles, and they try and follow them as well, because obviously they are the masters at thermaling. So there's no thermaling going on today, so we won't be looking for any clues in that sense. But anyway, it doesn't seem like there's any meat around for now, so I'm going to continue on the search, and well, while we do that, off to the bushwalk team.
Right, let's see if we can find some birdies through here. I can hear some calling. Alarming. You can see one. Apparently Herberto can see a kudu. Come over here, Sebastian, otherwise you are not going to see it. Can you see it? Yeah. Oh. I see that they are not very brave kudu. Running away. Oh, now, on this tree here, this thorn bush in front of me, Seb, there's a rattling cisticola. Can you see it? Thorn tree there, broken, bent over. That is the rattling cisticola. It's very cross. I wonder if it doesn't cross at us. Might be why it's alarm calling. There might be a snake or something in here. Just do a careful walk through this spot. Lots of birds making strange, angry noises. Let's just do a little walk here. There are lots of them. 3 or 4 different rattling cisticolas in one place going bzz, 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 bzz. Okay, you've got them right on this tree here. Flying away. That's an alarm call. They're shouting at something. You just look on these termite mounds here. Yes, thank you to all of you who are worried for my safety. I'll definitely be careful. One must be careful. One must never become blasé about this sort of thing. You might just be moving along in a feeding party. I don't know why they'd be shouting like that. Just looking to the air to see if maybe there was a raptor circling. There isn't. If There isn't a little leopard lying in the grass there. This is where the kudu were, so I think that if there was a leopard around here, they would have been barking. So let's keep going back down towards Alberto. Through the woodland, which as you can see is blessed of winter colours, looking a little bit dull as the light has failed to come out from the clouds. Alrighty, I'm going to catch up with Herbert. Sydney, I believe, is demonstrating his automotive skills.
Yeah, it is still very difficult here on my side. It seems to be very, very quiet, but hopefully we are going to find something as we are heading to the area whereby a lot of activities took place this morning. A lot of evidence has been spotted in that area. So I'm just trying to track and see if I can find something. Paula, my perfect drive is consisted of good sightings, and sighting can be anything. It can be about birds, it can be about beautiful insects, but big animals, I consider them a bonus. Yes, definitely a cat has to be part of the sightings. So here I'm still trying to find some tracks, but it seems to be very, very quiet. It seems to be very, very quiet. I didn't copy that question very nicely. FC, if you can repeat it for me. Yeah, no, the weather, it is very cloudy and overcast, but it's not very cold like this morning. Now, I think the temperature is still very fine, but later on I am definitely going to put on my jersey. Yeah, let's try and see what happened here. Although this is one of the old evidence, you can see that the big marula tree has been uprooted. So this has been done by the largest land mammal, the elephant. You can see that the elephants can be very much powerful, eh? So this is quite a very big tree. So the elephants, they've got to eat a lot, and they cause quite a lot of damage during the dry season. During the winter season, elephants know that the vegetation does not have nutrients up by the branches, as the vegetation, both trees and grasses, hide the nutrients under the ground by the roots. So here, this elephant was trying to get hold of the nutrients under the ground by the root. So come summer season, the damage is very low. So during the summer season, you will see that they will only push down only few trees, not a lot compared to the winter season. Now, them and the warthogs is when they are uprooting the trees. Warthogs will be digging a lot of grasses, trying to get hold of the rhizomes. So let's carry on and see what we can find. So as I'm heading to where I'm hoping to find something, I am now going to hand over to Ralph, who's got something interesting for you.
Still on the search, still looking for these cats. But what I want to do say is, at this time when it's like this, you know, where I'm from in the Eastern Cape, as soon as we have a big cold front like this coming through, and there is the possibility of snow, a lot of us South Africans as locals, for us it's a real sort of treat to be able to get or, you know, go and see snow and actually feel it. I mean, I never saw it or felt it until I was 21 and I went to the Alps in France. But what some of the guys do is when we have this kind of weather, there's a place called Hogsback in South Africa, and when a cold front like this comes in the middle of winter and there's always that chance of snow, well, the guys make a trek to Hogsback and take the kids and the dogs and everybody go and play in the snow and build snowmen. And there's also, we have a ski station in the Drakensberg called Tiffindales, and I mean, it's nothing in comparison to the Alps or any of the Rocky Mountains or any of these stations that you've got in the US and in Europe, the Mont Blanc and all that kind of stuff. But you know, we do still say that in South Africa we've got the world in one country. It's not massively like those mountains, but Drakensberg got some ski stations, and you can go out there and do some snowboarding and skiing, and it's called Tiffindales, and that's where a lot of families go to do some of that kind of sport as well. Now, Tony, you know, in these winter months like this, we've got the resident birds that are quite adapted and quite evolved to be able to survive through this kind of weather. The more tropical kind of birds, they obviously migrate, and they'll go to Central Africa, closer to the equator, or even to Europe, and some of them even go further afield into places like Russia and China, into the northern hemisphere, where it's a lot warmer, and they can then survive and come back when it's warm. So they just literally follow the summer. Whereas the birds that remain here, they've all got different tactics to be able to survive that cold. And one that is, you know, very indicative and a classic example, which we don't get here, but is the sociable weavers. Now, what they do is they make massive nests, the biggest nest builders in the world, and you'll find them in places like Namibia and into the Karoo part of South Africa as well, so into the western side of South Africa. You'll get some of these sociable weavers, and they huddle together on those very, very cold winters mornings and evenings, and that stops them from having to shiver, which shivering is a way to keep warm, but it does take a lot of energy for you to stay warm via shivering. So they huddle together and then don't waste the energy on having to shiver to survive through the night, and then that means that they can still continue on with their workings through the day, both working on building their nest and also going out to forage for food. And if you've ever seen sociable weavers at work, you will see that they never stop. So if they had to spend their evening shivering, they would literally waste all that energy, and they would probably die of exposure or exhaustion. But there are, you know, times when you do have birds that die of exposure, especially places like here in the Lowveld, where it's not normal for us to go below zero. And if we had to have extended periods of time where the temperature does drop towards freezing point over a week or so, you can have birds dying, you can have antelope dying, like impala, etc. They don't do well in the cold because they're so well adapted to, you know, more heat or hot conditions. So, but the birds, what they'll also do is, like we've seen with a lot of these birds, they fluff their feathers out like the impala do with their hair, and they trap that warm air in the feathers there, and much like a wetsuit or a neoprene body suit, that then traps the warm air close to the body, and that heats up, and that assists in keeping them warm. They'll also try and just, get out of the wind, because the wind chill factor is a major factor in when it is cold. So, it can be 10 degrees Celsius, but with the wind chill, it might be -2. So that's always an important factor. And if they can stay out of the wind, then that does assist in them keeping cool. What do we have over there? Is it a young elephant? Whoop! There's a very young one here that's just given us there's a whole herd here, but this little guy, he's just given us a trumpet and he's announced himself. So I'm just going to give him a little bit of space for his path that he can move through there. But let's have a look at him. Look, he's given us a bit of a show. I can see some little babies up in front there, but he really gave us a trumpet and announced himself, huh? How's it, buddy? Normally the little young bulls that do that. And now he's really showing us his disgust. Going to the toilet after he's told us what he thinks of us. Now it seems like there is a whole herd here. That is a nice little young bull. Sure, I nearly got a fright. He really sounded like he was bigger than he is. Shouting the odds, eh? Oh, we can hear branches breaking. There's quite a few more elephants in front. But this guy's the clearest for now. I just watch him. I was hoping he was going to come and say hello. But after that initial trumpet, seems to just let us know that he's there, and now he's calmed down. You hear him chewing. He opens his mouth, and I don't know what he's chewing on there. You know, the elephants, it's quite interesting. I was actually reading, you know, these wrinkles on the elephants that you're seeing there, it actually assists, you know, apart from the ears that they flap, those wrinkles do assist in both keeping them warm and cool, because it extends the surface area of the body. So if they were flat without any wrinkles, there's obviously a lot less surface area. So at the moment, now, when they obviously want to be keeping a little bit warmer, because it's quite cool and they're not really that, you know, used to this kind of temperature, you've got a bigger surface area for them to be warming up. And as well, when it's hot, they've got a bigger surface area on the skin for the wind to pass over and for it to keep them cooler. So it does really assist in thermoregulation. The major organ obviously being those ear flaps that acts as the real radiator, but a big part of their thermoregulation does come down to them having lots of wrinkles. And so that obviously is then true with quite a few animals, like rhino as well. And lots of wrinkles does assist in the thermoregulation, both keeping cool when it's hot and keeping warm when it's cold. Now, fur cat, the elephants do use their tails in quite a lot of body language that they use. So especially when they get very agitated or they're stressed, their tail goes almost straight out. So at the moment you can see very relaxed how they're just swishing their tail. Now, there's some little babies there in front. I don't know what he's doing. He's having a go at something on the ground and swishing his trunk around. Look at him there. He's going to be showing everybody what's going on there. And he's really having a go at that branch. There we go. And so you might even see the way, if he uses his tail, you see, if it's very relaxed, oh, is he going to come and give us a bit of a charge? Maybe he'll chase some of these little birds on the road. There we are. Yeah. So, yes, they can definitely, their tail, we also watch that tail when we're out on foot. You see how it starts to go straight out like that? And that, you know, as a youngster, he doesn't really know how to use his body language properly yet. He just throws it all around. But the older they get, obviously, when that tail goes straight out, you want to be careful of those elephants because they're quite stressed And you normally see that accompanied by them storming off, as well as them putting their ears out like that. That's always them trying to make themselves look bigger. And he disappeared off now into the bushes there. I'm sure he's going to show himself again. He looks like he's up to nonsense. But we've got this one over here that's just feeding through. And I might make a little bit of an approach in a minute. I just wanted to see if that youngster came out onto the road before I go and disturb them. Very relaxed are all of them here. So this guy now slowly starting to make his way out, and it's going to be interesting to see if we can get a better look on all of these elephants. But well, I'm not going to go anywhere now because we're right in the thick of this herd, and this one's strolling along, and well, he is a lovely elephant, but I hear that James, who's also strolling along.
We are strolling about, but we're strolling about with a bit of purpose now. There is a little group of grey go-away birds shouting here. And yesterday Herbert came into this area and he said he smelt the smell of a rotting carcass. But because it was getting dark, he didn't have time to check what was going on. So that's what we're doing now. This is the reason I'm keeping my voice down and soothing. I'm going to go up onto this termite mound and then look from the top. Something's been in this hole fairly recently. I can't smell anything dead at the moment. I can smell freshly excavated soil, however. Let's just look around here. You can see the grey go-away birds up top there. You've got them. And they're shouting at something. But of course a leopard's coloration and a lion's coloration in this kind of vegetation is very, very camouflaged. And with the wind blowing, it makes smelling, of course, and hearing that much more difficult. They may just be having a domestic dispute, I suppose. Anyway, Herbie's decided this probably isn't the area. He's walked off over that way. You can definitely smell urine. Can you smell that? Here. A rhinoceros has been here. He's been making a wee-wee. I think that's what this is. As they go from termite mound to termite mound, of course. You can see the wet grass here. Gary, it really does depend on the age of the carcass. A 3-day-old carcass in the sun of, say, an impala, I mean, a leopard will pick up from 3 or 4 k's away, a hyena probably even more. A bushbuck killed this morning in the coulth like this won't smell very far. I mean, Tingana found one killed in the morning. It was a bit of sun from about 1 kilometre away last week. So, you know, it just depends on the time of the day. Oh, not the time of day, but the heat of the day and the amount of time that the animal has been no longer with us, you know, in the spiritual sense. Nothing going on at the moment. Let's just keep going through here. Alright, I see Herbert just across the way there. We'll go and get an update from him while you go across to Sydney for an update. We're sleeping under there.
Yeah, it is still very difficult for us this side, for me to get hold of the cats. No sign at all on the ground. So all the cats are just hiding this afternoon. So I'm still carrying on to try and see if we're going to be lucky and see something. So all I am seeing on the ground, it is just the tracks for yesterday and early this morning. Lots of hyenas activities, but the leopards still very difficult to try and locate them. Yes, I didn't copy that question very nicely. The question is from Jess. What is that question again? Yes, Jess, the cats, this is a very favorable weather for the cats to do their hunting activities. So that is why the chances for us to see them during this kind of weather are very high. So we're just not sure what's happening, because since this morning we have been looking all over this area and it is very difficult for us to locate just one of them. So, but the game drive is still on. Chances are very high. Before we finish, we might see some of these cats. Yeah, while I'm still looking for the leopards, I am now going to hand over to Ralph, who's going to show us some elephants.
Yep, and it seems like there's quite a lot more than we saw initially of these Loxodonta africana, the African elephant, largest of the land mammals. So we have now seen the tallest land mammal. Now we're seeing the biggest or heaviest. And here comes Mom. It's quite possible that she's a matriarch, but not necessarily. There's a little baby. That looks like that one that was quite, well, having lots of fun running up the road towards us. Now, sitting bull, as far as I know and as far as I've seen, elephants give birth standing up. But I'm sure somewhere out there would have been times when they've given birth lying down. But mostly, and when I've actually seen an elephant being born, they do it standing up. They sort of spread their legs a little bit, and it's a little bit of a thud. It's similar with, you know, a lot of the antelope as well, even giraffe. You know, like when a baby is born, you know, the doctors can, I mean, I watched my little boys being born, and a little bit of a grab on the legs and a slap on the back just gets that breath going. Well, I'm pretty sure that drop to the ground is also that sort of, hello, wake up, let's get going, let's breathe, and welcome to Earth, welcome to life. And so, yes, definitely a little bit of a fall for them. It's not a massive drop onto the ground, because obviously you've got the afterbirth and everything coming through. But let's try and get a little bit of a better view here. I'm going to move forward a bit. There's lots of elephants around us, but they're just hidden behind the bushes. And obviously when I'm moving through a herd like this, I always try and go nice and slowly. Now, Gary, you say that these elephants play hide and seek with me. Well, I definitely think they do, and I always think that elephants have got a sense of humor as well, because they very often put branches, almost place it perfectly just over the road. And, well, as I was saying, yes, they do play hide and seek, and we're right in the midst of a big herd, so I do like to go nice and slowly, because I don't want anybody getting a fright and thinking that I'm a threat. I just want to be part of the herd as we move in here and let them just relax with us. We've got one just off of our side here. I don't know about the pole here, Craig. I need to just maybe go back a bit. Maybe swing a bit. How's that? We could maybe see him through there, as that one feeds on. There we go. Now, are Laura Moore? Yes, you're quite right. Mummy mommy elephants are very, very attentive to their youngsters. They will slow down and allow the baby to keep up with them, as that one is there in front. And I've actually seen many different kinds of scenarios where the elephants are looking out for the little youngsters, and one that sits with me is I saw them many times in the Namib Desert where they've just got some small fences, but it's mainly just to keep people out from some of the little the subsistence farmers' lands. And the elephants, they go and the mother or the big female experienced elephants will walk up and they'll stand or press the fence down and stand on it while all the youngsters then file over the fence, and then once they're all over, then the females will just walk on, and then the fence bounces back up. So that I've seen them doing that many times. I've also seen them helping each other when they're crossing rivers, like in the Zambezi, which where it gets very deep, where the babies can't actually touch the bottom, so they do literally grab onto each other's tail. Well, the adults don't, but the babies will grab onto the tail, and then mommy will assist in pulling them across, especially where it gets quite deep and there's lots of current. And I've also seen them doing it in Pongola, in the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. It's one of the only game reserves that surrounds a lake in South Africa. Obviously in Zimbabwe you've got Kariba, and there's some game reserves around there, but in South Africa the Pongola Dam or the Jusini Lake is surrounded by game reserve, and lots of elephants there as well. They've also got black rhino and wonderful game reserve. One of my favorites actually, because there's tiger fish in that dam, and so you can watch elephants while you're catching tiger fish. Now, CNAC, I have had many stressful encounters with elephants, both on foot and by vehicle. It's never resulted in either of us actually getting hurt, but it's been quite stressful, especially when you've got such a big animal like this that has decided that you're either in too close, or he's having a bad day, or whatever it might be. And one such case, as I say, I've said many stories, but this little baby is chasing birds. He's running through the bushes here. There he is. I don't know, he's right through the thickets there, but he's going to come running back now. There he comes. Hey. Causing nonsense while Mom just carries on feeding quiet. There he is. You see how that tail goes straight out again? I've had, when I was on vehicle, CNAC, where I've driven slowly like this, and just without me knowing, it was getting almost dark, without me knowing, one of the little babies like that, I was turning my head and talking with my guests, and unbeknownst to me, one of the little babies got on the opposite side of my vehicle to where Mommy was, and she was feeding happily like this one is doing here, and at a moment she realized that the baby was on the other side of the vehicle to where she was. And she immediately charged the vehicle. And I just continued. I got a fright because, as I say, my head was turned and I was talking to my guests, quite relaxed and in amongst the herd. But as I say, we both got a fright because she obviously thought that I was maybe a threat to the baby now, and so she charged the vehicle, and it just took a cool head just to keep talking calmly to her, and we didn't move, and she put her ears out and she really had a go at us, but the baby then luckily moved around and she saw the baby, and the whole mood of the herd immediately changed. They all sort of got quite stressed and almost aggressive towards us, but it was because of this mistakenly getting in between the mommy and her baby, which is one of the worst things you could do. But it wasn't our fault, and it wasn't their fault either. We were just in an unlucky situation. But the whole herd eventually moved off in quite a hurry, and so they weren't happy with us after that. But yeah, it just goes to show that you need to just keep your wits about you when elephants are around you, and it's good to know where everybody is, even if you're talking to your guests. So that was a lesson for me. I did drop my guard a little bit because I was right in amongst them, and I'd done it many, many times before. I was probably, 10 years into being a guide. So, you think you can just say, oh, I know elephants. Just be careful, because you can get yourself into a bit of a dangerous situation. You just need to know where they all are. And if you can listen out and you hear some off to your left, off to your right, just know what they're doing at all times. That's about all. But generally it's like this, and you see Mommy's tail, she's very relaxed. Well, I'm not going anywhere. This is too much fun. But it seems like James has got a natural home to show you.
Well, it's natural in so much that it's not built of synthetic materials, but it was certainly built with great skill by the African hawk eagles that live in this area. Now, we are still talking in relatively sort of sedate in relatively sedate tones, because it is quite possible that there is still a leopard around here. We've got now chin-spot Batisse's alarm calling. Tip, 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 tip. A flock of white-throated helmet shrikes flew past us going... Well, it sounded absolutely nothing like that, but they also seemed to be alarm calling. But as yet, nothing. Reports of male leopard tracks in this area. There is an African hawk eagle, actually. You see on the very far tree there, that is the African hawk eagle, whose home we have visited. Having a bit of an afternoon stretch he is, under the gunmetal skies. Miserable. Oh, yes. Mr. and Mrs. looking at their home, saying, I wonder what those intruders want from our place. Let us hope they're not there to raid our larder, or worse still, take an eggie out of our nest and fry it for their breakfast. Well, Sinak, we have observed them building this very nest over here, and it takes them a little while. It takes them quite a long while, actually, and so over the years we've watched it becoming larger and larger. I've never seen one built from scratch, so I can't remember if there was one in this tree at the beginning of my tenure here, some 3 years ago. I think there was a smaller one. And certainly they do seem to get bigger and bigger. And I think with this hawk-eagle pair, they actually have a few that they've used over the years. And that are not necessarily permanent nests, but they do base their territory around here. It could also be why the birds are alarm calling, because I looked around for them, I couldn't see them, then we saw them over there. And it's quite far, I would have thought, for these birds to be alarm calling at them, but they are very much out in the open. Now, a lot more irritation in this thicket over here. Let's just have a quick look there. Before we do that, though, Sydney is that waterhole.
Yeah, I've got the hippo, nice and relaxed. The hippopotamus, they spend much of their time during the day in water. And sometimes you see them walking around during the day, especially during this kind of weather. The hippopotamus, the reason why they spend much of the time in there is because they don't have sweat glands. So it's very difficult for them to survive the sunburn. Hippopotamus are very big animals, and it's one of those animals that are feeding during the night. So these animals, they come out just shortly after dark, and they can travel long distances in search of food. They can go far as approximately 30 kilometers looking for the food. It's one of the very dangerous animals. They are very much territorial. So if you can just check there, you'll see the males, mostly the outer layer of the eyes is very dark, and the females, the outer layer of the eyes is very pink. So I cannot see if here by these dams is more than one, but all I can see now is just one. So these animals, how they demarcate territories is very much interesting. Normally they go and they leave their droppings. As they're leaving their droppings, you will see they will wipe the droppings with the tail in order to disperse them so that they can spread the scent. Safari South, I did get your question. The hippopotamus, they can be pregnant for a period of about 6 to 7 months, and they can give birth with just one little one. So that little one can weigh up to 40-60 kilograms. No, it looks very big, eh? They can run very fast, and it's very dangerous to come across them coming back to the water holes. If you are between them and the water, you are in a very dangerous situation. Yeah, a very nice hornbill is trying to forage here on the ground. No, the hornbills, they eat a lot of insects, and they're not that very shy. So the interesting part about the hornbills is that these birds cannot recognize themselves. When seeing themselves on the mirror, they knock it to try and get hold of the intruder, not knowing that they are knocking themselves. So they fight against themselves. So the hippopotamus is one of those animals which has got a lot of, it's a complex stomach, but how it works similar like a hind gut fermenter. Sometimes, because of traveling long distances, you can also find them lying down very far away from the water holes. They can use the thick bushes and hide there and carry on afterwards. Yeah, now I am going to take you back to Ralph. He's going to show us the development with regards to the elephant sighting. I am going to link you with Ralph now.
So that's an elephant roadblock, which for me is the best roadblock you could ever get. And I want to ask you, from wherever you are around the world, once again, I love getting, insights from wherever, different places, different countries, all over the planet. Send us your different wildlife roadblocks to the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. I want to see those pictures, whether it be bears or kangaroos or kiwis or whatever is blocking your passage with your vehicle, whether it be on tarmac or on a gravel road. It's very interesting to see. So let's get your pictures in and we'll have a look. But difficult to beat an elephant roadblock, I must say. Lions too. But whether send us those as well, whether you're from South Africa, Botswana or wherever. It'd be interesting to see your different experiences with different roadblocks. And I've been stuck many times with elephants, and sometimes for hours, where I've needed to be somewhere, but the elephants have just kept me hostage. And once again, that's where I think they do definitely have a sense of humor, because not only do they put logs across the road, whenever you are in a hurry, the elephants will really press the subject of making you just chill out, man, and you're not going anywhere until we say you can. And they almost know that you're in a hurry, and they do it on purpose. I always feel it's always those times that you need to press on, that they just really take their time and don't let you move. Well, this female, she's just meandering in and around the road, and this whole herd still, they're just out of eyesight, but we can hear them all around us, breaking branches. And that little youngster still following on with her. Now, Paula, you say you've been stuck behind cows before. Yeah, that's also one, especially if they're walking on the road in front of you and they're not moving off. It can be quite difficult to get through. Remember, in the Masai Mara, that is some of the biggest herds of cows I've ever seen in my life. And it took us a long time to get through those herds. Once they start, towards sunset, once they start moving them into the area for the evening's grazing, it can be an arduous process of trying to get through those herds. AB, you say Canadian geese in California. That's a good one. Yeah, I like it. Getting blocked by geese. Now, I'm just going to move forward slightly. There's another little male making his way down here. There's some on our right, some on our left. This is an awesome spot to be in. And as I say, I always love being in the presence of elephants. I've even had being blocked by terrapins crossing the road. Let me see if I can move forward. Oh, that's quite a good spot. Kathy, you say that you were blocked by a tortoise. Yeah, that's often. But if I see tortoises or terrapins on the road, I very often stop the car and that's one of the times when I will pick them up to get them off the road very quickly. I don't turn them over or do anything. I just literally keep them low to the ground, but quickly just shift it off the road so that any of the cars wouldn't squash them. Well, this is a very pretty looking elephant. I've also been blocked by lions. And I have told the story before, but there's a very famous story about one of the old section ranges in the Kruger National Park with lions. Now, in the old days, and when I say old days, a good few years ago, the rules in the park were sort of enforced very strictly. They are still enforced now, but not as strictly as they were. I mean, it was the old days, if I can say that, and I'm showing my age now, but at that time, breaking the rules inside the park was pretty much like committing a crime, and you could land up in jail. And even the section ranger had to obey the rules and could lose his job if he was outside of that. So anyway, he was making his way after his day's work in the park back towards camp, and sunrise, sunset is the curfew. You need to be back in camp inside of those times, otherwise they lock the gates and then you can get fined, you can get locked out, you can lose your job, you can be blacklisted, etc. So he was obviously quite keen to get back to camp before sunset, and he came across a pride of lions that were lying in the road. And at the same time, you also were not allowed to drive off-road inside the park itself. So he sat on the road and, hoped that these lions would move. Now, it was heading towards sunset, and he was running out of time. He still had quite a way to go, and these lions were a typical African lion roadblock. So they were blocking the road, and eventually he was running out of time completely, and he had to just go off the road a little bit to try and get round them. But he came quite close to them in the end, because there was a lot of trees and so on, so he had to just come close to them as he was coming onto the road. And one of the lioness's tails actually flicked out as he drove next to them, and he drove on her tail. And she let out, obviously, a growl, and she smacked his tire out of pain. So she hit his tire, but she literally hit the tire right off of its rim. So it didn't even touch sides, it just flew right off of its rim. So he came back into camp and he had to race on his rim. He obviously damaged the rim quite badly, but he just had to keep going with this tire following all around the rim, and he luckily made it back into camp. And that's how strictly the rules were enforced. He didn't care about the tire. He thought he'd sort that out afterwards and pay the price, but he didn't want to lose his job, and he also didn't want to stop for the to change anything with big game around. But it also just shows the sheer power of a lion's sort of club, if we can say that in South Africa. It's hitting power in the paw of a lion. But that's another story of an African roadblock, and that's from a section ranger in the Kruger National Park itself. Alright, so we're having a wonderful time with these elephants, and we're going to continue on with them. But it seems like James, he's also having a wonderful time.
Well, I'm always having a wonderful time out here in the wilderness. I must confess that the position I'm currently in right now is uncomfortable, and I don't know how Guchava spent, well, probably about 4 hours lying in the boughs of a much thornier tree than this one yesterday. It was, of course, a knobthorn tree, because there are little bits of spiky things sticking into me all over, and although I might look relatively comfortable, I'm certainly not. The other discomforting thing about this tree is that it smells of urine, which is very unpleasant, and I suspect, actually, it's not the urine of popcorn-smelling leopards. I think it's probably the urine of squirrels that come and live in the various holes in this tree. I can see some of the nuts that they've excavated here, and I can tell you that squirrel urine does not have a very pleasant odour at all. Now, we did find some tracks of Tingana coming off in this direction towards the south. Herbert, are you convinced that they are going south or north? North. So we then apparently missed some other tracks that have crossed the road the other way. Are you sure? Is that what... They found them there. Okay. So Aubrey's found them going north. These ones that we're on are a little bit older than the ones that Aubrey is on. Aubrey is a guide at a lodge not far from here, of course. We'll tell her. Well, Mina Moo, it's much easier to show you how many drainage systems there are with a couple of sticks, if you like. A drainage system, for those of you who don't know, is a river. I don't know why we don't just say river or stream. We should probably just say river or stream. The main one is, of course, the Mramati, which runs north-south down, pretty much bisecting Djuma in half. That's what that stick is there. And then there is one feeding from the north-east that comes out of sort of Buffelshoek Dam and feeds into this one. That's the one at Nyala Road North-South Junction. There's another set of 4 little ones, we'll use the stick for that feeds into Gari Dam, where the dam cam is. That's over there. There is... I'll leave out the smaller ones, or the smallest ones. There's one that feeds into... They all eventually feed into the Mramati, but there's one that comes out of Treehouse Dam. That's that one over there. And then there's another one that eventually goes... I suppose it would be over here. Sort of feeds down like that. Eventually into the Mramati. So those are the main ones there. Another one this side actually as well. So you can see they all drain into the Mramati, which then flows down south out of Djuma. That's quite a nice representation actually. I might remember doing that. Thank you, Minamu. We're now turned 180 degrees and we're heading in a northerly direction to see if we can find a leopard. Ralph is milking his elephant sighting, which is excellent given the lack of activity from the rest of us.
And this young bull here, he's really just getting rid of all the soil and stuff on the things that he's feeding on. And he's so close to us. He's within 10 meters. It's absolutely wonderful to be so close to such big animals. Look at his eyelashes there. A lot of these big animals, they do have very extensive eyelashes, obviously keeping any foreign objects out of their eyes. They don't, like I always say, they don't have doctors, they don't have optometrists in the elephant world. They've only got one eye on each side, obviously, but they've only got one chance at it. If something had to go in there, he could lose his eye very easily. So all the protection with those eyelashes. Anna Marie, I don't know if they get, tooth decay in the way that we do, because we've got, it would be the sugar, and I suppose you do have sugar, obviously, in vegetation, but they don't get the real tooth decay that we get. Their decay in their teeth is more so from the grinding that they do on quite heavy or thick and difficult to grind vegetation, like branches and stuff like that. So their decay is literally mechanical. It's not chemical from the sugars that they feed on. There might be a little bit of assistance from that, but it's normally just ground down. And they go through about 6 sets of teeth in their lifetime. And at about 50 to 55 years of age, they get their last set of molars and teeth. And once that gets ground down, that literally is them. That's what limits their lifespan, because they can't feed after that. Well, they can't get the nourishment from the vegetation anymore, because you start finding the dung with full branches and leaves and everything in it. And they die a very slow death. I've actually seen it unfolding with quite a few individuals, and I've been following quite a lot of them also on foot, where you find this dung that there's no breakdown of the vegetation whatsoever. So whole particles, whole branches, whole leaves, whole everything in it, and you can see that it's not able to break it down in any way. And then it becomes quite sad, because you see this animal really slowly losing condition, and they wither away. But you need to also be careful on foot, because they can be rather grumpy, as you would imagine. I mean, it's like an old dog that can be a wonderful pet and friendly to everybody, but once they start getting old and sore and arthritis, and they're also, their liver and kidneys start packing in, those are often the animals that do sort of bite people or attack, and you have accidents there. So you always be careful of any animals with injuries when you're out in the bush as well. And that includes old age and when they're starting to get sick in that way. But it doesn't seem like there's any real old individuals in this herd at the moment. Well, I'm going to try and get a little bit closer here once again. And the roadblock is still in place, so we won't be able to get past them just there yet, but let's head on over to Sydney in the meantime, who's got his eyes on the ground.
Now, I've got something very interesting for you here on the ground. I am going to circle it so that you can all see what I'm talking about. I managed to get a hold of a cat track. It's 2 different tracks. One is here, and then another one is somewhere ahead there. I will show you just now. So I managed to get a hold of the lion tracks, and it's not that very old. I can see that this lion has been here after the rain, because the rain did not disturb the track at all. The track has just been disturbed by a lot of wind. So the wind just blew the tracks, but the water did not cause any much damage on this track. So it means in the area here, the chances of seeing one of the cats are very high. As after this track, I am going to show you something very interesting. I managed to get the tracks for the small leopard, Kalamba. Kalamba was coming from here where the lion is coming from, heading towards that direction. So it's just that the tracks are not that very clear, but I can see Kalamba walked here. I've got a very, very beautiful track here. So, but this is happening not very far away from the waterhole. So it is clear that these cats, they all went down towards the waterhole. They have been there. I'm going to hang around this area and try and see if we can be lucky and come across one of them. So Kalamba is one of the newest cubs in the area, so it's still very, very new, and you can see also the size of the track. So, but she was all by herself. So let's see, maybe, who knows, we are going to see her. So the direction of the movement of the track is going towards that side. So now I've got to first check because I've been there and I saw nothing on the other side. So maybe coming back they've used the bushes. So I'm going to hang around this area and see if maybe we can pick up something. So let's just have my earpiece on. Yeah, we are now going to look for them. At least we've got an idea now. So I am going to now take you to Ralph, who is going to show us some developments in terms of the elephant sighting on the other side.
And we were just watching this little baby. He was out on the road, and he gave us a little head shake and almost, I thought he might even trumpet at us. And now he's gone back to the cover of Mom. And they very often do that. They almost come at you and give you 1,000 words and then run back to the safety of Mom. And, well, it's no different in this case. And as I say, we're right in the thick of this herd, and it's what a privilege to be in amongst giants. And they're all relaxed with us, almost accepting us as part of this environment. They're all moving around, just happily feeding. There's no stress whatsoever. There's another youngster over there. This one's not even in its teens just yet, I would say. Probably less than 10 years old. Right next to the road. And I mean, I wouldn't push past these elephants, even if I wanted to at this moment. Toby, I would say absolutely that elephants do get tired of being on their feet. You'll find little babies, like babies throughout the animal kingdom, and humans, they definitely take little cat naps all over the place. They have their 10 minutes to half an hour snoozes, especially when Mom has stopped and they get a chance. But as they get older as well, they'll also lie on a little bit of a slope and rest and actually sleep as well. But it's not also past elephants to sleep standing up, as well as sleeping on the move. I've watched an elephant sleeping while it's walking towards me, and I had to clap my hands to wake him up because he was literally going to walk straight onto me. The little youngster just catching up with Mom. You see there, always in the safety and security of the presence of Mom. And once again, straight along the road. So unless we had to turn around and go back the way we came, we do still have this roadblock in place. Like I say, it's one of the best roadblocks to be in, and we're going to be stuck in this for a while, I would say. But, well, while we see how this unfolds, let's head on over to James and the Bushwalk team.
Well, my worst kind of roadblock is that of the processionary caterpillars, because, of course, one doesn't want to run them over, but one doesn't want to split them, and yet they are so small that one can't believe one has been blocked by such tiny little things crossing the road. And so one's only option is to wait for them all to cross, and there could be thousands of them. So somehow a bit easier if you've got a whole lot of elephants, because you can see them and enjoy them and view them. But when you've got 1,000 processionary moths, caterpillars trying to get across the road all in one stripe, and you just cannot get around, you can't drive around them because you don't know how far they extend into the bush, it's most frustrating. Over here, what you were looking at very first up were some tracks of tlalamba, we think. Herbert thinks she was playing in this tree sometime probably today or yesterday. It's very difficult to tell because of the rain that fell earlier on. And so we're not too far actually from Sydney, so if he does have tlalamba tracks, well, chances are she came through here from after she was with Sydney, I think, because I think those ones were heading south, if I'm not mistaken. Alrighty, let's keep going. Just going to check through here. Aubrey, who I told you was driving out of Vuyatela, has managed to find tracks of Tandi quite far south of here on her own, which means that tlalamba is most likely still around this area somewhere, playing, hunting francolins on her own, eating small things, as she must, as she gets a little bit older, almost 9 months now. 9 months old. It is remarkable, I keep saying this, but it's so remarkable when you think of a 9-month-old human infant and their level of independence compared with a 9-month-old leopard cub. It really is quite some difference. That's all, of course, because we have such very large brains, which take so long to develop. Billie Jean, we do encounter rhino from time to time on foot. We encountered one today, actually. We don't show them yet. This is a subject for some debate, but we'll address that at a later stage. We did, in fact, find a rhino on foot, and because they don't see so well, as long as you're quiet and the wind is in the right direction, you can do them very safely on foot. And some of my very best experiences have been with rhino on foot, as long as you don't take it for granted. This is white rhino I'm talking about. If a white rhino becomes aware of you and becomes irritated enough to actually charge, if you like, they're almost impossible to turn. So you can shout and scream and do what you like, and they just keep on coming. But that's a very unusual occurrence. And also, if you were to get behind a bush like this, for example, let's say there was a rhino over there, and Seb and I and Herbert were around here, and it took offence at us and started running at us. If we went behind that bush, it would simply not know how to find us. So you can get away from them, provided you have space. You can also climb a tree. They are not obviously tree climbers, and it's a very effective way to get out of the way if you happen to be too close to get into cover. Goodness, Sydney is finding a lot of water in the middle of the dry season.
Yeah, I am now back at the water hole. I'm trying to see where this tlalamba is and the track for the big lion, because it seems like they are in this area. We are at the right track. The possibilities are still very there for us to see them. We haven't seen anything yet, but the tracks are leading us to this area. So let's just hope for the best. Yeah, you know, here by the bridge, I cannot see the tracks here on top. It's very difficult. Oh, here comes an interesting animal. We have just come across a very interesting animal approaching. Look at that. Beautiful, isn't it? Look at the ears. Ears are just like an African map. A very peaceful animal. So this is the largest land mammal. This animal can weigh up to 5 tons, 5,000 kilograms. So the elephants, they spend much of their time feeding. And feeding to them is not just about luxury. So now, when the weather is cold like this, eating a lot of food, it helps them, it protects them against the cold. So they can eat up to 400 kilograms a day. So eating too much food is very important for energy. Otherwise, they are going to battle when it comes to the generation of energy. Nina, I got your question. The elephants, they like other fruits as well apart from the marulas. So, but their favorite fruit is the marula. So these animals are coming down to the waterhole. The hippopotamus just got the update that the largest land mammal is approaching. Just listen to them walking. They don't make any noise, eh? So it's like they've got some shock absorbers. Very quiet. This is a lovely sighting. So these animals, they can be able to drink 150 to 200 liters of water a day. And from the 400 kilograms of food they eat, they only go to digest 48%. Meaning that in their droppings, there's still quite a whole lot of nutrients available. Huh. They were very tasty, eh? Byron, the elephants, the adults, the mothers, they got to teach their little ones how to use the trunk. When they're born, they are not aware, they don't know how to use the trunk. So as they're growing, they are going to go through a certain training whereby the adults will teach them how to use the trunks. Because when they're still very young, if there is a dam wall, the big ones is the one who must then have to collect the water and give to the little ones to drink, because they don't know how to use it. So this is one of the pectoral mammals. So it means their mammary glands are between the front legs. The elephants have got a very interesting social structure, and their social structure is not led by a male. The females, they've got high ranks. It's led by the female. It's a matriarchal kind of a social structure. Who give orders is the females. Still drinking, eh? They were very much thirsty. So the elephants, they like to swim. I didn't get that question nicely. If you can come back. I just got the name Sina. And what is that question again? Not only the elephants, a lot of animals, they eat a lot of clay when they are lacking of minerals, and some they eat this clay when they are looking for the assistance when it comes to the digestibility. So the animals, such as the elephants, they eat quite a lot of hard stuff. So the digestive system, it works very nicely. So it's a very big body-sized animal, but it doesn't have four-chambered stomach. This animal has got just one stomach. It's a hindgut fermenter. A hindgut fermenter, it means a digestive system on these animals. It starts from the mouth as they're chewing. And how they grind is very interesting. The elephants, they grind forward, backwards. They don't grind sideways. Look at that little one. You know, the little ones, they always want to show that they are growing and they've got strength, eh? There's quite a very lovely sighting. So if you can look between the eye and the ear, look at the little one, between the eye and the ear, they have got a little hole there. That hole is giving a lot of people confusion because it does secrete something called a temporin. That is something called a temporal gland. A temporal gland, it secretes the temporin, and temporin is just a sign of stress. And a lot of people, they misinterpret the secretion of the oil coming out, thinking that this elephant is on mast. That oil is not a definite sign of mast. It's just a sign of stress. Oh, they can be very quiet. Eh? Maybe they're going to swim for us. Denal, I did manage to get your question. So the animals, after birth, the adults and the little ones, they bond. They spend much time together, and that is when the mother is learning the little one, and the little one is getting a chance in order to learn their babies. So they can be able to detect their little ones from the sense of smell. They can be able to detect their own genes. So animals are very, very, very much gifted. So their gestation period is about 22 months. That is almost 2 years. So that is why the elephants, they don't want anything to come closer to their little ones when having little ones, because they are carrying their little ones for quite a long time. Oh, the hippopotamus is now coming back. It's relieved now that the elephants, they are not swimming, they are not disturbing. So they're just leaving him alone. Look at those ears. So this animal can run very fast. It can go up to 36 kilometers an hour. That is the charging speed when this hippopotamus is out. Their sound is very interesting. Yeah, I am going to carry on and try to see if I can find the leopards. We were just accidentally came across the elephants coming to drink. And now I'm going to take you to Ralph, who is going to show us something interesting on the other side.
Well, I'm going to show you us driving along the Mlolwati, and I'm heading towards Twin Dams. Just managed to get past the roadblock with the elephants. They gave me a gap and they allowed us to slowly drive through them. It is quite a big herd actually, because even down by the river here we found that there were some more individuals, and mostly those young males that just hang around the periphery and often get left behind. And then you can very often see them, all of a sudden they realize that the herd has moved off, and then they get into a panic and they trumpet and try and catch up with the herd when they all of a sudden realize that they've moved off and get a bit of a fright. But yeah, so a reasonably sized herd, I would say. I'm just coming along down here. I always got my eyes open for some of the owls that like to hang around in these big leadwoods and jackalberries down in this, next to this drainage line here. So always just checking out. There's a very big leadwoods that we've got as we drive through here. Nice in the soft sand, especially when it's hot. This is one of the areas that I do like to come and check. And not that it's hot today, but I'm making my way towards the main road, and I'm going to head up then to Chitwa, go and have a quick look in there, and then we'll head west and go and see if we can pick up on any signs of Hukumuri and Shudulu. That's my plan from here on out. So for the moment, it would just be wonderful if a leopard just jumped out in front of us here somewhere. That's what I'm hoping for. Everybody seems to be hoping for leopards, but I'm not going to even attempt to track them, because I've had more luck when I just literally just forget about the tracks and just drive around. I've found more that way than actually being hot on the trails of them, or hot on the tracks. So yeah, we're coming up now to Twin Dams, which is almost on the southern boundary of the Djuma Traverse, and then I'm going to drive on that southern boundary all the way to the eastern boundary, and we'll see if we can see any leopards in that particular area as well. So it seems like the hunt continues, and well, it seems the bushwalk team is hunting as well.
Well, yes, we are certainly on the hunt. We're not hunting for leopards anymore, as of about, well, 3 seconds ago. We are on the tracks of Tlalamba around this little rocky outcrop. Isn't it lovely? But there are some elephants we can hear just in the bush here, and so we're going to see if we can see them. It is them turning into a very stunning afternoon, actually, possibly made more so by that beautiful little patch of stones. So before we make our approach, we're going to check the wind. Wind is good for us, so we keep going. The elephants are cracking branches in here somewhere. We'll walk along this little dry stream and see if we can't find them. Obviously we need to be as silent as we can. We need to keep checking the wind. We need to be cognizant of what sort of vegetation they're in, so that we can find cover should we see them. Ideally also you want to keep height, so that we'll have a height advantage should we see them. And also, very importantly, you must keep an eye. Oh, you're right. Sebastian stood on something. Important to keep an eye 360 degrees around you, because you can become very focused on the sound you've heard, and then suddenly you'll be snuck up upon by something else. So let's walk through here into the setting sun. Very pretty. Sanjay, it depends where you are in the world. Given your name, I'm going to assume, possibly wrongly, that you're of Asian extraction. In Asia, the elephants, the females don't have any tusks at all. The males all have tusks. In Africa, both have tusks. Females' tusks are smaller, and some females some males too, just don't have tusks. It's a very rare sort of genetic anomaly, if you like, where they're born without tusks. It's not common. It's more common in females than it is in the males, but it does happen from time to time. So in the Asian elephant, no tusks in the females, and then the African elephant, tusks on both, smaller on the females normally. Still can't see the elephants yet. We'll stop and see if we can hear them. Herbie can hear them down here. He's also just checking for Tlalamba tracks. Yeah, we can hear them moving here. Wind is still good for us. I was hoping to find them the other side of this little dry stream, because then we'd have a slightly safer vantage. That's okay. We just approach with caution. As the black-collared barbet calls behind us. Doop, paddly, doop, paddly, doop, paddly, doop, paddly, doop, paddly. And as we get closer, we'll start to listen more and more closely. Stop more and more often. Especially if you look ahead of us there's some very thick bush. So now we need to stop and we need to think, where are we going to go? If it's a herd, there could be more than one. So we keep going slowly here. Wind is still good for us. Light is good for us. In fact, the light is not great. They're talking now. We can hear them talking to each other. Yeah. They're quite far, actually. Let's just keep going down through here. Yeah, I think stay with me for this little walk. It's quite nice to see the whole approach sometimes, as opposed to just coming and over once we've found them. So we're getting a bit thicker, walking a bit more slowly, more carefully. Soraya, I'm fairly ambivalent. I quite like both bushwalk and the car. Both offer completely different experiences. In the car we can sit with cats for a long time and watch their behavior without affecting them. Whereas on foot, of course, you can't do that. But on foot you get this thrill, you get this much greater connection to the wild than you do in a vehicle. Beautiful sun now. Hear them calling in here now. Let's just walk very carefully. Poor old Sebastian has to be especially carefully because, well, he's got this giant aerial hanging off or sticking out of his back. I don't know if you can hear that, everybody, but they here something died and was eaten. Quite close here. We think there might actually be a vehicle approaching from the other side. Just need to be careful because what you don't want is for a vehicle to get in the way. Sebastian is having a dreadful time back there. There we go. He's made it through. Okay, let's keep going through here. I think they're moving slightly further away, so let's try and catch up with them. You go to Sydney in a bit.
Yeah, it is still very difficult on my side. I've been trying and still no updates and no sign of the leopards, no fresh tracks yet. But hopefully we might see them. But at this stage, I've got something very interesting around me. I am going to point it out now for you. Not on a very long distance, I've got a very big bird. It's just seated there. It's enjoying some warmth. We have got the vulture there. You can see that this weather, it does have a lot of negative impact on vultures, as these birds, for them to fly and have their activities, they depend on thermal. And when the thermal is low, when it's very cold, their activities are not too much. So this is one of the scavengers in the area. So it's one of those birds that are depending on the other animals' remains. So the vultures are very big birds and they can fly very high. It's one of the highest flying birds. Yeah, he has been there for a while. You can see not even moving, just enjoying the sunset. So now I am going to head towards the southern side of the reserve, whereby I'm going to try my last luck. Hopefully that side maybe activities are taking place in that area. That is why where I am now is very quiet. Yeah, I am now going to take you down to Chitwa Dam, whereby there is some activities taking place, and I hope you'll enjoy them.
Well, and look at this. One of the little youngsters out with seemingly mommy here at Chitwa Waterhole. And that little baby is very cute. I don't know what it's eating there. It almost looks like it's eating some mud. So I don't think there's any grass right down there next to the water. he's also just being full of nonsense, like the little baby elephants were, and the youngsters always are, and always full of play and having fun. It's always great watching the little ones. Mommy out with this weather. She's obviously feeling a little bit peckish, so she started having a bit of a graze there. Oh, and you saw that spout of air being blown out with a bit of water from one of the other ones there. It's quite incredible, because I've actually been sleeping in a tent in the presence of hippos walking past, and while they're grazing like that, like Mommy's doing there, it's incredible the sound that it makes, because it's like a oh, there's a bit of activity there, a bit of argy-bargy. Lots of hippos here at Chitwa Waterhole. And there looks to be that white bird is a African spoonbill. There we go. He's starting to do a bit of his characteristic feeding method. Sways his bill backwards and forwards, and sees if he can feel anything there, anything from little invertebrates and arthropods. See there, he's walking through. It'll be anything from tadpoles to larvae of dragonflies, or even fish and little crabs, or anything like that. Going for all sorts. It seems to be the same individual that I've seen here for quite a while now, but a very characteristic feeding method, that of the African spoonbill. The yellow-billed storks can also do very similar as well. So that's all very exciting, and it seems very exciting. The bushwalk team have managed to get to those big guys on foot.
Alright, we're in amongst this herd now. We're not quite in amongst it. They're over there in the thick bush. We're going to try and find a little vantage point on top of which we can look at them. They're probably about 30 meters or so, 100 feet from us, maybe a bit more. So let's go through here. You just saw probably the back end of an elephant. So these conditions are not ideal, because it's very thick bush. We have no height advantage. And so what we're going to try and do, we know of a termite mound not too far from here. The wind is still fine, blowing from them towards us. We're now so close that we need to start watching where we put our feet. And the human foot is one of the noisiest feet you can imagine, because there's a vast surface area compared with most feet on the ground. One day we're going to get a wireless aerial. Poor old Sebastian's getting caught again and again by vicious bushes. They're just in here. I can see one now. Come and have a look here, Seb. There they are, right there. Not far away. The wind is still good for us. Now it's now that you don't want to make a noise. Got to be 360 degrees aware, because this is a largish herd, and so they are quite widely spread. There's quite a nice view over here, Seb. Come over this way. Okay, watch out for the trees here. They're in a broad front along there like that. We're just going to go through here. I'm just looking, of course, up top for Seb as well. You're going to have to lance through here. Basically what he's doing now is leaning forward and lancing with the antenna to get through the thick bushes. There's one close by here. Come, Seb, keep coming. Sebastian just stood on the largest pile of twigs this side of the equator. It's okay. The elephants didn't hear us. Robert, you say you're very excited because elephants are your favourite. They are great fun, but they're not to be taken lightly. And so we're just being very careful. Oh, there's a nice view here of an elephant's buttocks. That one's a bit further away than the other one. Very nice. This is a big herd. It's across a very wide front. And of course the chances of finding a leopard when elephants have been through the same block, if you're actually trying to track her, are very small. It remains a very chilly afternoon. As the sun disappears, you can really feel it starting to get colder. Nice shot there, Sebastian. Nicer being standing still rather than trying to fight your way through the bushes. So while Seb shoots there, Herbert and I are looking around continuously, just in case one should emerge from a bush somewhere close by. And speaking like this, I suppose, is a little bit for effect, because if I spoke a bit louder they wouldn't hear us, but the chances are they might. If there was an elephant close by, or a bird close by that suddenly got a fright, or a steenbok or something like that, they might run off and give these elephants a fright. They'd look towards us and probably see us. And they'd probably just stand there because they're quite far away, but they'd have been affected by us. So this, at the moment, is what we'd call a successful walk, because we are viewing the animals on foot, obviously, and they have not seen us, and they have not reacted to us at all. If they were to turn towards us, and then maybe a cow stuck her ears out like that, it would be considered, well, a fail, in that we affected their behaviour and they'd seen us. If she turned towards us, looked like this, and just carried on going, well, then that would be okay. It's a fail when you start to affect animal behaviour on foot, because of course they see us as predators. You don't pass every walk, it's simply impossible, but that's the kind of standard we go for. We view animals without them knowing that we're there. Tony, yes, I also hope the wind doesn't suddenly change, but you know, this time of year, it's very unlikely. It's a very pretty standard. It's an alarm calling kudu, right through the middle of the herd. This time of year, this wind blows from the south just about always. In the summer storms it can swirl, but it wouldn't do that now. So these alarm calls are straight through the middle of that herd of elephants. Obviously we can't walk there, but we've sent a vehicle around that side. That's so frustrating. Aubrey had tracks of Tundi. We'll wait here. We're going to wait here, because it's not far. It's just the other side of the Elise. It's right here. We'll wait here and see what happens. Elephants we can't see anymore, I'm afraid. They've disappeared into some thickish bush. But if they see a predator, they'll start to shout. Alright, Ralphie's made his way to the biggest waterhole in the area. Let's go across to him.
Well, that crocodile there, actually Craig pointed it out to me, because I was so intently watching the spoonbill moving and doing his hunting that I didn't even notice the croc was there. But there he is, just behind the buffalo weaver's nests. And we can actually hear them. They're just up near us here as well, in quite a big nest too, but we're watching that crocodile there. You can hear them calling here as well, and I mean the red-billed buffalo weavers, very untidy stick nests that they build, and then the cormorants and the Egyptian geese and everybody else makes use of them as well, because they're a nice platform that they set up. So much like the sociable weavers and the hamakop nests, they make very good platforms. All of these very messy type builders of these nests, and so there comes a red-billed buffalo weaver, just landed on top there. And you'd be making that kind of chirpy. There's another one. Also cooperative breeders. And you have the oxpeckers as well that use those nests then too. They'll almost parasitize on the red-billed buffalo weavers and go in and make a nest on the side of these big nests that they build with the sticks. And because the oxpeckers also make nests out of sticks, but now that the red-billed buffalo weavers start this whole platform type thing, and they often move in as well. We have lots of birds which parasitize on the others. Oh, look there on the opposite bank once again, those Egyptian geese with the little goslings. Oh, the one's got a limp. Now, I'm sure you guys have probably seen these before, but that's the first time I've seen them. That one's got quite a bad limp on it. I don't know if he'll be making it for too much longer if he carries on like that. It'll be easy pickings for anything that wants to have a little snack. It could be a nice meal for a jackal, or a honey badger, or a crocodile, or anything like that, but they've got to get past the adults. They can be very aggressive themselves. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is it? Seems like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yep. One adult. And Egyptian geese do breed quite prolifically. And a lot of their natural predators have, especially in the sort of suburban areas, have been taken out. So they really are doing well in the sort of Johannesburg, Pretoria areas along the riverine systems like the Vaal River and the Klip River and all the tributaries, the Orange River, all of those. And I put it down to the otters being dwindling. And they would be a very good natural predator of Egyptian geese, goslings, keeping them under control. But they also do sort of have a bit of a conflict with the guinea fowl in many areas that I've seen. As a spotted thickney or a water thickney looks like more like just walking along the bank there. And so they do come into conflict for roosting and nesting areas with the guinea fowl. The guinea fowl like to roost in the same areas that the Egyptian geese in the evenings as well. So there can be a bit of conflict there. But the geese generally win, although the guinea fowl have got the numbers. So it's once again full of birds here next to the Chitwa waterhole. Lots of them. And you see these Egyptian geese, very vegetarian, just moving through, eating little grass and so on. Now, Tina, these Egyptian geese can be aggressive towards humans. If you had to go there where these little chicks are now, they make a hell of a racket, and they can get quite hissy. And where I stay in Port Alfred, and you can hear now there's some 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flying across. Well, you can hear that noise that they're making there. Where I live in Port Alfred, that's on the Cowie River, one of the many rivers that come in the Eastern Cape there, apart from the Bushmans and the Kariga River and the Fish River. We have the Cowie River, a lot of Egyptian geese on there as well. And the other day I was sitting at a restaurant which is right on the bank of the river, and there were some Egyptian geese there. Were very tame. They're walking around where you're sitting, just enjoying the nice, having lunch on the banks of the river. And there's some domestic cats that were walking around there too. And, well, when the domestic cat, you would think, would be able to take out an Egyptian goose, well, the Egyptian goose walked over towards the cats, hissed at them and pecked at them, and the cats all went running. So, well, they're not even scared of cats. I think it'd have to be a bit of a bigger one, like maybe a caracal or so, and that would be able to... be able to catch and eat an Egyptian goose. But those little goslings, yes, would be vulnerable, but with mommy or daddy around, they wouldn't stand a chance. They'd have to be left behind. All right. I think this has been a wonderful little birding excursion. I'm going to now head in a westerly direction and see if we can find any signs of Hukumuri and Shudulu. But, well, while we head in that direction, it seems Sydney has found someone's dung.
Yeah, I have got some very beautiful droppings here on the ground. You can see they are looking very much fresh, and I even got the hyena approaching. Have you seen that? It was a very beautiful hyena is coming over there. Yeah, and the droppings I've got just in front of me are the droppings from the giraffe. So you can see they are very much scattered. So let me try to drive forward a little bit so that we can see. I just have picked up a hyena coming as I was looking at the droppings. Yeah, here. Oh, I've got a laughing hyena. It's a very beautiful sight. It's trying to ignore me. It's trying to ignore me, heading towards that direction, unexpectedly, eh? It's one of those animals with a very beautiful call. Oh, look at the giraffe is trying to escort the hyena. So things are happening here. So this giraffe has been following the hyena all the way from that side, and now it's making sure that this hyena has disappeared. So the giraffe came at high speed, and now he's just hiding behind a tree. Yeah, let me just pull forward a little bit and see what's going on. Yeah, right ahead of me I have got a giraffe standing looking at us. I'm just gonna try and approach much closer so that we can have a very good sighting. So let's see. So the hyena just got disappeared. Nature is very much interesting, eh? We were talking about the droppings. As I've started, the hyena appeared. Shortly after that, the giraffe came. So what we are seeing now, the animal we are approaching is one of the large mammals. When that animal is standing, you can see it's very much tall, eh? Very, very dark spots. So I know a lot of people, they've got a confusion between the male and the female giraffes. So the males normally, they have got dark spots, and the females, they have got light spots. And the males, as they are getting old, both male and females, they dominate dark spots. So when the colors are very dark, both dark, you must have to consider the following. If both of them has got dark spots, you must consider the horns. The males, they have got very thick horns. and the females, they've got very thin horns. Now we are going to James, who is going to show us something very interesting, elephant on foot.
Well, we've got these elephants here, same herd, and we're just waiting on the edge of this drainage ditch here. Why do I keep saying that? I'm going to make a concerted effort to say the word river bed now, and we're just waiting to see if Thandi doesn't come across here, because we heard those bushbuck alarm calling. She will certainly try and avoid the elephants, and so we're in a good position. If she comes this way, I suspect what she will have done, however, is turn towards the east to get around the herd rather than trying to sneak straight through it. But who knows? That elephant moved now, Seb. No, she's still there. Let's have a look at the Ellie there. Now we are a little bit out in the open, but we know that that's kind of the vanguard of the herd, so we can get out of the way if we need to. She's just shaking her head at something. I think it's another elephant. I doubt it's Thandi the leopard. Leopards are so unbelievably stealthy, but elephants are pretty sharp. Just listen, there's lots of alarm calling birding all over the place. Oh, Josh, absolutely elephants can survive without tusks. Female Asian elephants do it very successfully, and there are plenty of elephants here that don't have tusks, and they survive just fine. It's not as easy for them. They need those tusks, especially this time of year, to scrape away the bark from trees. That's what they use them for. Predominantly, there's no real chance of them being, say, unable to defend themselves without tusks, but I think it's probably just a little bit more difficult for them to eat, especially in the winter time. But yeah, they can get away with not having tusks. In big fights, bulls will use their tusks, so if you're a big bull and you've got no tusks, then I suppose it'd be quite difficult to assert your dominance in any kind of fight. So they are definitely very useful, very important, but it's not impossible to survive without them. She's disappeared now, has she, Seb? We're still just waiting here to see if we don't get very lucky. Come over the side, Seb. Paula, it depends if you're asking about in camp or in the bush. In camp, I've been this close to an elephant. But there's been a sort of window between us, or a door that I can just duck behind. But, I mean, in the wild, probably 10 meters or so. I've got slightly too close than I'd wanted to. 10 meters, about 30 feet, maybe just inside that. Normally not on purpose. I don't purposely get to myself within that distance of elephants. It's not very clever. They're just gently gliding through there. There's a bigger one over there. You can just see the light starting to fade, and it'll become a lot more difficult to see in the fading light. Still Herbert stares down the riverbed, hoping desperately that a leopard is going to come along. There's the large bottom of an elephant crossing over here. Yeah, I think the chances of seeing that leopard are now pretty much finished. Elephant. Yeah, I think that's about the best view of the eddies we're going to get for now. They might come out again. Alright, I think we've probably died down in the sighting, not us personally, but the actual action. So let's go across to Ralphie and some birds.
Well, this fish eagle here next to Chitwa, he is feeling the cold, I would say, because normally when you get this close to them, they generally fly off. But this one's just ruffled his feathers a little bit and just trying to keep warm. You can see with those very cold clouds in the background, and well, he's not the only one. We're all feeling it, and it's very indicative of the cold weather when they're reluctant to fly off. I'd rather just sit there and nervously watch you go past. And he's just looking down in the water. I don't think he's going to be going anywhere for the next while. He's probably really not enjoying this weather. But there's some guinea fowl that are just slowly making their way towards their normal roosting area. That's not far from here, where they all jump up in the tree and spend the evening, and they're just foraging a little bit on their way down there, not far from where they're going to spend the night. So there they are. It's like the bush chickens. Always comical, I find, the helmeted guinea fowl. And we also get the crested guinea fowl in South Africa, but find them down the east coast, into KwaZulu-Natal, and in the St. Lucia area, or the Isimangaliso World Heritage Site. But we also do get them a little bit up in the north, so quite west from here. So the crested guinea fowl have got a bit of a patchy range, whereas the helmeted guinea fowl is pretty much spread all over southern Africa, right from the west to the east, south, north, everywhere. And they're very common, are these guinea fowl that we're watching now. They obviously also make up quite a good food source for lots of small predators too. And Craig said earlier they look like disco chickens. I tend to agree with that, with their really strange coloured faces and that Roman-like helmet on top. And they've got very big spurs as well, similar to the spur fowls. They can inflict quite a heavy blow on each other. That's how they fight. And in Afrikaans, they're called a tarantaal because of the call that they make, as it's now starting to go there towards the back of the vehicle. So they're out of view now. So I'll maybe just start up and get us a bit of a view on the waterhole itself. All right. Well, I'm going to now make our way a little bit around the waterhole here and see what else we can find. Maybe we'll see the resident monitor lizard, but it seems like Sydney has found one of those tall creatures.
Yeah, I've got a very interesting animal just ahead of me, the giraffes. So a group of giraffes together is called a journey of giraffe. They are very much relaxed, stationary feeding. These animals is one of those animals whereby when you are lacking of calcium in the bush, you're gonna have to eat their droppings, because they also eat a lot of bones from the other old dead animals. So their droppings is also consisted of some of the calcium. So the giraffes, they give birth after a very long period of pregnancy of about 15 to 16 months. And they give birth while they're standing, same like the elephants. So the little one has to hit the ground as a wake-up call in order to kickstart their life. So earlier on, I was explaining to you, before we were interrupted by the hyena, that the difference between the male and female is that the males, they've got dark spots, and females, they've got light spots. But if both of them has got dark spots, you must have to consider the following. Consider the thickness of the horns. Males, they've got thick horns. Females, they've got thin horns. And males, on top of their horns, they don't have hairs. Females, they have got hairs. In fact, the giraffe doesn't have horns. What you are seeing there now is something which is called an oxycone. An oxycone is consisted of a bone and a skin. A horn is something which is consisted of a bone and a keratin. So that is very beautiful. Right, if you can check at the bottom of the oxycones, just between the ears and the oxycones, they have got something, they have got a bump there. So if you can check there, they've got a big hump, and that hump is where they are storing the calcium. Just look at the ears. You see, the whole body is camouflaged except behind the ears. And that is the only part which is not camouflaged because it is there for a reason. For communication, they spot each other here behind their ears. So that is what they're using for communication. You mustn't forget that the giraffes, they are lacking of a voice box. They don't vocalize. So for them to communicate silently and quietly, they've got to spread their ears every time they walk. And that is how they spot each other from long distances. Look, you see, now he's walking. You see that he's spreading the ears so that the others can see where he's going. Beautiful, isn't it? So let me just now pull forward so that we can be able to see. The giraffes, you will see mostly shortly after birth, the female is going to isolate herself so that she can be able to learn the little ones, and the little ones can imprint the spores from the others. So males and females, they stay together in a group. But sometimes you find that the males are not there when the females are with the little ones. So males don't play a very important role when it comes to the raising of the little ones. The mother, it is her responsibility. You will see the mother together with the other young little ones. You will see the nursery group working together every time when they are nursing their little ones. So they have just now got disappeared, you can see. So I am now going to pull forward a little bit and see if we can see them. Let's move forward. Sina has got a question about the size of the ears of these giraffes. They have got large ears because these animals, the concentration of food is happening deep in the thick bushes. So the large ears must have to help them in order to hear a lot of sound from the lions stalking them from a long distance. So let's pull forward and see what's happening. Maybe that hyena is still there. So maybe that hyena is still there. We might find something interesting. Oh, they went over there. They easily got disappeared, eh? Oh, I can see they're somewhere deep in the thick bushes there. Oh, there they are. Yeah, there they are. I'm just gonna pull forward a little bit and see if we can have a better visual. Ah, they are on our way towards the western side of the reserve. So look at this animal. You must check how this animal walks. Yeah? So how they walk very swiftly. It's a movement which is called an asynchronactic movement, whereby you'll find that the legs of the same side walks at the same time. Yeah, let's just wait and see. Maybe this one's gonna... The question about giraffes giving birth to twins is something that has been recorded, but it doesn't happen very often. Look at how they're walking. Oh, it's just that we are obstructed by the big trees. We can't see the movement anymore. So we are now going to carry on again and see if we can be lucky with the cats. But still, I hope before we finish, we might be lucky and see them. We are now going to Ralph. Maybe Ralph on his side has got something very interesting for us. So let's now go to Ralph.
The only other interesting thing I've got is corrugations on the road. This is Gowrie, Main, and I'm just coming off of Chitwa soon, but I'm just looking in the area for any chance that we might actually spot Tingana. I have a feeling though that he's headed towards Little Gowrie this morning, but Tristan said he's been doing a little bit of a route like that, but anyway, I have found him in this particular area before, so I thought I'd just take a chance and just come and check out here and see if he's made his way in this direction. You never know, might have gotten lucky, but nothing for now. And well, we never know. In this area you could find the Styx pride of lions, those mangy females with the cubs, or any of the Avoca males, or anybody out here as well. So I thought I'd just check this area and see if we get lucky, but nothing for now. And the sun has now seemingly gone down. It's a bit difficult to tell with all of these clouds around. It's already dark, but there's still some light on the horizon there. It's still looking very ominous and cold. I don't know how much longer this cold front is going to hang around. It was a very big one, and that did come through. So our CNAC, good question there, my friend. I became passionate about wildlife at the age of about, I would say, when my real passion kicked in, it was probably at about 10 years old. My father used to take me camping and fishing on regular occasions, but then when I was about 10 years old, I was able to go on my own a little bit, and I had my own little boat. And at that stage then, I think it was for my 12th birthday, I got my own little engine as well. So then I was really mobile on our river, because my parents stayed just on the boundary of a river. So we used to, very easily be able to go on the river like that. So about 12 years old. Now, sorry guys, there's just a vehicle behind me, and I don't want to bother him, so I'm just going to let him go past here. As you can see, there we are. There we go. Some of the local tourists, I would imagine. They're leaving one of the lodges. They've probably had a wonderful time, I hope. So that's it. So yeah, I would say, at about 10 to 12 years of age was when my passion for wildlife really started to flourish. Alright, so I'm going to head now in a westerly direction to where I'm hoping to find Shudulu or Hukamuri, as I've said on many occasions, and let's hope that we can find some signs of them. But, well, Sydney still seems to be with those very tall giraffe.
Yeah, you can see now the giraffe is trying to leave behind the droppings there. The droppings that I indicated earlier, that they are very much essential when lacking of calcium. So look at that movement clearly, legs of the same side walking at the same time. But that movement does change. When threatened, how they run is very interesting. They run like a horse. So that is where the name camel bird derived from. They walk like a camel and run like a horse. Listen to that. Sounds like a very big predator, eh? A very big sound from a small animal. So that is the sound the giraffe is listening to, coming from the small antelope, the impala. Beautiful, eh? that is normally happening during the May season, the May month, when they're rutting. So getting back to those giraffes, you can see that these giraffes are concentrating in this area because this is a dry riverbed. So the trees in this area are still very much green. So they are here looking for a diet. So all the areas we have been is completely dry at this stage. But here, because it's where the water is flowing during the rainy season, obviously there is still quite a lot of moisture available by these dry riverbeds. So it's what is attracting these giraffes for. Oh, very beautiful. So the tallest animal decided to disappear. So now we can carry on again and see if we can find some cats. Maybe before we close down this afternoon, we might be lucky and come across these cats, hiding cats since this morning. James, I do have a favorite nocturnal animal. It is the first word on all English dictionaries, the aardvark. So let's see if now we can find something interesting apart from the... So apart from the giraffes, let's carry on and see if maybe we can find those interesting cats. It's going to be very difficult for me now to track, as it's not clear anymore. So I'm going to have to check by the trees and by the roads. Oh, here comes another giraffe, right on the dam wall. Very lucky with the giraffes this afternoon. Yeah, so now I am going to try my last chance on this road where the hyena came from earlier. We've got about the brown and the spotted hyenas. So the one we saw earlier on, that was just the spotted hyenas. We do have brown hyenas as well. So it's the two different species of hyenas in the reserve. You see, the giraffes are very much interested on us today. So a few of them went towards that this western side, and this one are heading back to the southern side, to the eastern side. Oh, this is very interesting. So I am now going to Ralph, who is still driving. Maybe he's got something interesting on his side for you.
Nothing yet, Sydney. I'm still just heading in that westerly direction, running along the boundary, the southern boundary of the Djuma Traverse, and this is where I last saw the tracks of Tingana. So this is a good area to be in. He walked this way this morning, but I have a feeling he went over into Little Gowrie itself. It's difficult to tell on this road, or to pick up tracks on this road, because it is quite a busy road. This is where all the public vehicles would come in, going through towards the lodges like Jackie Sabi House, Chitwa, Arethusa, Chita Plains, etc. So quite a lot of lodges that would have the public coming through this Tingana actually walked across this road, because mostly his tracks would have been obliterated by the vehicle's tires. Now, I'm hoping that Hukumuri or Shidulu would have come in. And, well, while we're at it and just driving along, I've just got a small announcement to make, and that is that I've had a very wonderful opportunity that has come my way. So good news for some, bad news for others is that I will be leaving Wild Earth at the end of this month. I will still be remaining within the wildlife and tourism sector of South Africa, but not within the grouping of Wild Earth. So, but you never know, in the future I might be back. You never say never, but just so that you know, at the end of the month of July, you will not be seeing me anymore live on screen. So I'm going to be enjoying myself in this last little bit that I'm around, and I hope you have enjoyed my presenting and my perspective of the wildlife. But just so that you know, no surprises, and for those that don't like me, well, good riddance for me. Anyway, that's the way it goes. Not everybody enjoys everybody, and that's just life, isn't it? But well, I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed being on board with Wild Earth, and it'll be a sad day for me to leave. But yes, you if you ever come to visit South Africa, I will still be around. I'm not going anywhere. I've just got something that's a little bit closer to my family, and that will be quite sad. So thanks for all the good messages that have already started to come in, but it's not over yet. We've still got a good amount of time to find all sorts of things, and I'm hoping we get some very special encounters before I leave. Right, speaking of special encounters, I'd love to have one right now, as that darkness has now come across us, and I'm heading towards the actual entry gate, where that we often do find these two wonderful cats that I really like, with Shidulu and Hukumuri. I keep saying it because I think the more that I say it, the more chance we might have of seeing them. But well, while we keep looking, let's head on over to Sydney, who I think is doing exactly the same.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get hold of the cats, and I'm going to try my last luck for this afternoon. But still, I have not yet noticed any of the fresh tracks. So all I've been seeing since the beginning are the old tracks. So maybe they're going to start to come out now. Before we close down, chances are there. Let me try again. Still very quiet. I didn't copy that question from Dina very well. If you can repeat, I just copied the days and longer. I did manage to get the question. Dina, during the winter season, here in Southern Africa, we have got very short day length. We have got short day length, and the nights are much longer than the day length. Still, I can't find the fresh tracks, but I hope I'm going to find, maybe I'm going to come across the leopard coming towards me before I see the tracks. Yeah, it is now getting dark a little bit, so I am now going to use the infrared when it comes to the animals. Yeah, there's no sound, no growl, nothing. The bush is just very quiet at the moment. It's very interesting to experience the bush at night, eh? But the interesting part about driving at night is there is too many surprises, because it's always very difficult to see the tracks, so you just get surprised on the road. Yeah, as I'm looking for these cars, I am now going to Ralph, who is going to show us something on his side. Maybe Ralph has got it already.
Well, it was absolutely interesting now well, we often see it, but, you know, when you're driving through the bush, you can often think that something, well, you get to know a specific sound, and we thought we heard a pearl-spotted owlet, but it was the ever-present trickster, the fork-tailed drongo. He was doing his mimicking of a pearl-spotted owlet. And so he tricked us quite good and solid there. So we had to carry on going because, well, we see lots of them around, but we thought we'd possibly see a little pearl-spotted owlet, but we got tricked. And as much as we get tricked, so do the other little birds, and that just drives them away, because the pearl-spotted owlet is a very good hunter of little birds. Rick, there's not too many snakes out at this time of year. You know, you can come across them, but they're very lethargic, especially when it's like this kind of weather. You know, I haven't seen one in a long time. Sometimes when you get those nice hot winter days, you know, in the middle of the afternoon, you can have the tortoises out as well as the snakes. But generally now you would find that they're probably inside somewhere like a termite mound where it's nice and warm, and they stay up inside there. That's generally where the snakes would go now. If I was a snake, I'd go inside a termite mound. Tortoises, obviously, they can't fit inside there, so they'll go up, you know, sometimes also hold up in the thicket next to a termite mound. So a lot of the reptiles do go and use those, because those termites, even now in winter, are still keeping that temperature range between 32 and 36 degrees Celsius. So what is that? That's probably about 80 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe a bit more, maybe about around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, between 80 and 100, I would say. So nice and warm at the base of that termite mound, and obviously reptiles being ectothermic, they'd move to that. But when it is cold like this and in winter, obviously a lot less activity from the reptiles, and I would not be expecting to see any active at the moment. And if you had to see them now, they'd generally be curled up in a little ball. We used to often, when I was growing up, we used to find, you know, and I was up on the Highveld near to Johannesburg, south of Johannesburg, in a little town called Henley on Klip. That's where I grew up, on the Klip River. And well, there used to be a lot of rinkels, which is in the cobra family. In the winter, we used to find them underneath the table or in our tables outside, obviously. But they used to come in because on the Highveld in winter it gets very cold, you know, sub-zero, so it's freezing. And the snakes used to very often, you know, come and try and find some warmth near to the house. And we used to find them every winter. You know, if we moved a cupboard outside or anything that, you know, the swimming pool pump, if we opened that, there was always a snake in there. Oh, yeah, we've got a kudu, nice big female kudu, but I don't want to put the lights on her. Shame. She's getting a little bit confused. There we go, girl. There we are, just with the infrared, we can now see her, and that's totally dark. Now she can look at us without getting worried. See, the lights just stunned her a little bit. And that's often what happens with kudu. They're actually quite dangerous when you're driving along the roads and on the tarmac roads near to these game reserves, because what actually happens is they see that light and it confuses them and they try to jump over it. And when you see the kudu and you're doing 120 kilometers an hour, it's right above your windscreen. And then you have a lot of carnage along these game drive, between these game reserves on these roads that people drive quite fast. And lots of kudu get hit and people get killed and big car accidents, etc., because they jump over the fences and then, even a 3-meter fence, they clear it very easily, and then they get confused by the headlights of the cars and they jump. And then, as I say, it's carnage. And you hit a big kudu like that. I mean, that kudu can be over 100 kilograms. It's not a small animal, and you hit that at 120 kilometers an hour, it's going to go rip right through the vehicle. So both the people and the animal are in big trouble around these roads. So you've got to drive with extreme caution at night. And a lot of signs, if you come to South Africa, you'll see these triangular with a red border, a triangle red bordered sign with a white and then a jumping kudu. You see those signs all over the roads here in South Africa. And sometimes they have it underneath saying extreme caution at night. But even though that's said, lots of people, it's people are people and we're always in a hurry. I don't really worry about that, and it's more important to get there, isn't it, quickly than to be careful. So there are lots of accidents. And those are all females just wandering off into the thickets there. Right, let's get our lights going. They're not going to be confused anymore. There we go. Right, I'm going to try and look for... I'm hoping it's a little bit cold, like I said, for reptiles, so I don't think there'll be any chameleons out or anything like that. Maybe we'll see some fiery neck nightjars. If we're lucky, we'll see a leopard. But it seems I'm not the only one with my spotlight out.
Yeah, I am now having my spotlight on to try and see if I can see any reflection of the ice deep in the bushes. And so far, I did manage to pick up some ice. It's just that now it's very difficult to locate this animal. But it was not very far away from where I'm shining now. So I'm going to try and investigate this animal and see what it is. I'm not very sure what it is, but I hope it's one of the animals I'm looking for. Maybe. Let me try and pull forward and see if it's one of them. So the animals, by this time of the night, they can easily hide. But when they're trying to check what's happening is when I can be able to pick it up. So, but if they hide there and lower their head, not looking at the spotlight, it's going to be very difficult for me to see. Yeah, it was somewhere here. It was very fast to hide. It was somewhere deep in those bushes. But let me see if we can find something apart from those lights. It's very, very quiet at the moment, eh? Can't even see the small animals. Not even the hairs are up. Very, very, very quiet. We also check the ground here to see if maybe there has been some movements on the road while we were on the other side. There's still no tracks, no fresh tracks. Nothing. It's not, yeah, it came off. Still very, very, very quiet, eh? Let's see who's gonna come out first. No?
Just check on the door, see if it's plugged in properly.
Oh, it's off. Yeah, I'm getting that. Yeah, let's head to Ralph and see maybe he's got some nocturnal activities taking place on his side.
Nothing yet. And well, it's often, you know, night drives can be, you know, sometimes it can be particularly quiet. You know, I don't always suggest it to my guests. I always say that, you know, you have to at least go once, but you know, you have to be very dedicated to go on a lot of night drives, you know. And obviously, if you do want to find animals like aardvark, or you have spotted some leopards and lions during the day, then it makes sense. But, you know, you can often drive around for hours at night, and it can be very, very unproductive, especially in areas like where I'm from, in the Eastern Cape. There, the night drives are particularly dire. But, you know, as I say, sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. You can drive around and it can be absolutely exploding, and other times it's very, very almost, you know, it can get quite boring when you're driving around. But I mean, if you had to come to South Africa and you know, you've got it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and you've got 10 days or whatever, you know, then definitely you have to make the most of it and try your best. But you will find that you'll spend a lot of time driving around and not always seeing very much at all. It's definitely not as productive as, you know, the early morning and late afternoon, I have to say. But you know, if you in different areas, like for instance in the Savuti in Botswana, or in particular hotspots, you can definitely then come right. As I say, or if you know that the lions are on the property, or if you spotted the leopards, etc., and you know that you've got something around, then definitely go for that. But it can be quite long drives and not too much action. But you've always got to persevere, that's the thing. And looking for the eyes, looking for those little reflections, and that's when you do get lucky then. And it seems like with what the guys are doing now with this thermal camera, it's really taking things to a whole new level. Being able to... There's a bit of a squeak here. I don't know if it's the vehicle. Just listening. What is that? Is that a bush baby? Oh, there's two bush babies there. There's two there. Can you just reverse a little bit? There's two bush babies there. See if we can get a view on them. They're in a bush that we could maybe see them nicely. They're obviously speaking to each other. There they are. I don't know if you can see them there, Craig. See them there? There's two of them. There's the one in the light. He's just turned away now. There he is. And it's still there. It seems like there's more, because those ones... Yeah, there he is. There might be a whole little family here. Oh, there's another one. There are a few of them. It's not often that we get to sit and watch them, hey? Michelle, you say they're too cute. They are very, very cute little creatures. Absolutely. But so much so that a lot of people have tried to take them as pets. But they very quickly realize that they are extremely active at night, and they also urinate on their hands and feet. So they're jumping around up to 5 meters every single night around the house, keeping everybody awake, and also making everywhere they go literally stink of urine. Joy, I'm glad I've been able to show you one of these little bush babies. This is the lesser bush baby. Very, very cute, aren't they? And I'm pretty sure this is a little family. That's why there's a few of them. And luckily, I heard the little squeal of them. And so we'll just sit here. We're heading now towards the end of the show, everybody. So this is perfect timing just for the end of the show here. And it's been a wonderful day. And so thanks once again for joining us. It's not possible without you guys, the viewers, and, well, the animals as well. There we go. There's another one there. So thanks to the whole team. It's been a whole team effort. And thanks to everybody in FC, the guides, most of all the animals and the viewers. Those are the two most important. But don't forget to join us tomorrow morning once again. And join us on the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, most importantly. So, everybody, that's it for us. Salute, goodbye, and have a good evening, good morning, or whatever it might be. Ciao for now.